In the past 6 months, I've watched a ton of videos about agents. And most videos about agents then end up with a short demo where you see the agent summarizing some emails or maybe figuring out what's on my calendar or organizing my Twitter feed and, I don't know, saving, looking at my bookmarks and then creating a neat review document the next day. Now, since I use some really boring agents in production and they are making me money, I wanted to tell you the story of how I started these agents, how I'm thinking about them, and where I'm going with them. So in the last 30 days, I set myself the goal to send 100 outreach emails. Need to explain, I'm a professional speaker. I reach out to conferences and I make sure that they know that my speeches exist. So what I need to do is to reach out to conferences. Are there 100 conferences I can reach out to every day? Yes, there are. So at the beginning, I had this system which was made of scattered little tools. Like I would ask GPT to do a deep research and find some conferences. Then I would ask Zapier to research them because it had that multi-step agent and it had a free tier that was really convenient at the time. And then I had in Claude a project, just a good old project in Claude Chat. And in this project, I could paste the research and then it would spit out, it had my templates and it would spit out a draft and I could go into Gmail and send that draft. And this system got me some bookings, but it was slow and painful. So when I set out to harden it, the first thing I did is I called Alex, my friend, machine learning engineer. He's been producing software for more than 20 years. He's also working as a coach. So he could understand my challenge, he could understand the engineering part and the mindset part. And we kept talking about it, and he couldn't make heads or tails of the system because all of the knowledge about this outreach was in my head. And so in the end, basically what he said, probably you just need a CRM. So create buy a CRM and then create some integrations around it. And I began to do that. Step one, existing software. So there are some great CRMs. The traditional ones like HubSpot, the new ones like Folk, Adeo, the open source ones like 20, they're all great. I started testing them. None of them did what I needed to do. What I needed to do was find a conference, research a conference, reach out to the conference. So I started again from scratch. And I started from a Google Sheet. The Google Sheet where I was already kind of tracking the outreach that I was doing. And I gave my agent, what agent? Claude Code. Introducing Claude Code. I realized that I needed Claude Code and I just installed it. At the time it was included in the $20 plan. And I installed it and I started using it. And I started realizing I felt quite comfortable in the command line. And I felt quite comfortable with the fact that it could access the shell and it could run tools, it could run MCP, etc. And so I started plugging the components of the system. The first component that I plugged was this Google Sheet, where we had a queue of things to explore. Then I started connecting it to Gmail, and I started telling it, you know what? You can just look at my outreach emails and understand what I've done. And I started building this system. And at the beginning, I just did everything step by step using the fantastic creator skill from Anthropic that came out at that moment. And I started dividing the job, exploration, research, drafting, into different skills. And this is what they tell you to do. And it works and it doesn't. It works if you're there. If the system is attended, if you are there every step of the way, like, hey Claude, now research row 24, where we have this learning development provider or this conference in San Francisco, etc., etc. The problem is that the moment I gave the system the task to find 100 conferences, research 100 conferences, or create 100 drafts, it broke down miserably. What did I do then? I started to transform the skills.md, just a markdown file with, hopes and dreams, into a script. And that script, that Python script, that shell script, started running some parts of the system. And guess what? Some parts of the system started working, and some parts of the system became too complex and started breaking. And so for the past, I would say, week, what I've been doing my challenge was, how do I get to 100 emails a day? And I have it on my whiteboard. In the best week, I did 197 emails. So not so far away from 100 a day if you think about it, but still quite far away. And what is the problem? When it was attended, well, what do you want from a system like this? You want a good draft. You want it to find something in your draft in Gmail and say, okay, this is all correct. I just can click send. And the reality is, when it was attended, maybe it was 80% correct drafts. Then when it was unattended, the quality went down to maybe 20% correct drafts, which means like nothing. But already 80% is bad, because it means you have to control and check 100% of them, because you don't want to ruin your reputation with a conference organizer. Actually, I had one blunder. I reached out to a speaker on the email address of their podcast, thinking that the podcast was a conference and that they were the organizer. And this was the biggest mistake of the whole system. And actually, the assistant of the speaker was kind of very gracious about that. But I got then, at this point, skills that called scripts, and part of it was deterministic and part of it wasn't. And so what the prompt that I'm using right now with my agent is, if we were starting from scratch, what would you do? And with that prompt, I've created a version 2 of this system, a version 3 of this system, and they're all broken. And I'm creating a version 4 of this system. And I'm moving from processes to a database. And I'm moving from trying to verify each step each time to actually verify everything at the source. So having a trusted database. So in the end, in order to make this work, I had to think like a software engineer. And if you just instruct the agent to do something for you, it will start doing it in the wrong way. Now, hopefully in 6 months, none of this will happen, because the agents will have common sense. But right now, whoever is able to teach common sense to an LLM is a gazillionaire, because that's exactly what they're lacking. Now, right now, I'm running this system on the $200 max plan on Anthropic, and I'm running it through these scripts, and it's sort of in production. I still have to check every single email by myself. The time to check every single email has gone down from like 3 minutes to more or less 30, 45 seconds, because there are some bits of the system that I can trust. However, this system doesn't cost $200 because there are some other components to this system. So the fundamental component of the system is HeyReach, because not everybody I'll be able to connect to via email, and not everybody I want to connect to via email. Some of them I want to connect via LinkedIn. And I'm using HeyReach also with their native functions, but that's 79 euros a month on top of that. Then the system needs to do a lot of research, and so it has access to the Serper API, which is $50 for 50,000 searches, and I'm already at $100 with that. Then it uses curl, Firecrawl, and Playwright. And Firecrawl is, I'm on the free thing, but I think I'm gonna have to pay at some point to research web pages. And finally, to enrich contacts, It started using Dropcontact that has, I think, a beginner plan for like $39.49, but we're already like, I think, at the $59 plan because we need more contact enrichment. And so the other component that I hadn't thought at the beginning is like, at the beginning I thought I'm going to pay for this CRM that is going to be at the center, and then I'm going to have some connectors and skills. What I'm actually creating is I am creating the CRM, and then the skills are connecting to specialized tools that they need to do their job. Now, I encountered a million problems. Oh, by the way, right now I'm using Claude Code, but I'm having Codex, especially with GPT 5.5, review any code decision that is being done by Claude. I'm using Claude as an orchestrator, but then I'm pulling in Codex when things are breaking. And anyway, as an auditor, as a verifier, and this relationship is kind of starting to work. I need to do a little bit of cut and paste between the two, and it works. Then there's naming. I created so many components, and they're all like research. So they're all called research. And I started getting really confused with the naming of my own system. So I had to start thinking, again, like a little software house. And now I'm giving, the Explorer, the Crawler, Memory, all of these, I started giving them bespoke names so that I can understand which part of the system I'm using at any given time. And this is end of January, and now we're in the end of May. So these are 4 months of work. Now, what does 4 months of work produce? I'm not ready to share a dollar or euro number because the number of gigs is not enough, and you would kind of understand from my LinkedIn posts exactly who paid what. However, this system got me to fly to Vienna and give the opening keynote at a conference. It got me a connection with a bank for an engagement that is going to happen in July. It got me a connection with a very important business school and gave me the opportunity to run a mock session for them and start a relationship. It's given me the opportunity to send countless proposals. Not all of them have won. And it's giving me, like, if you could focus on the on the whiteboard behind me, there's quite a few things in the pipeline. And my objective was to send 100 emails a day and book 300K of talks in 30 days. I haven't booked the 300K. I can say that I'm far from that. However, I know the system will book the 300K. But now, if you're still here, you will learn why this system works. And it's very boring. Now, this system works first because I asked for help. And I went to Maria Franzoni. I'm very happy to promote her work because she does a terrific work if you're a speaker. I went to Maria and I asked her how to position myself, how to market myself, what does the market want, what do conference organizers want to hear, what my showreel should look like, what my webpage should look like, what my outreach should look like. And that I invested in that, working with an expert that taught me the ropes. Second, I did it by hand. And I did it by hand for a long time. And it was boring. And I was relentless. And at times I stopped, okay, when I was too busy and I couldn't do the outreach every single day. However, I continued, and then I brought these learnings, this actual real business process that already gives you some results in the real world. I brought that process into Claude Code. And then finally, I invested hundreds of hours into understanding how to build it in the best possible way. So I believe that by the end of June, I will be able to send 100 emails a day, and I will be able to have 100% of these emails be correct. I will still check them, and I will still probably check them all, but I'm quite sure that I can get to a system that is exactly the system that I want. The costs are not Claude Code. Some of the parts of the system right now are working on OpenRouter, especially because Claude Code is starting to put restrictions, and anyway, it's not the best option to call Claude Code from a script unless you're paying through the API. But if you're having the subscription, it's not the best option. And every time calling Claude -p creates a lag because Claude wants to load its whole environment every time you launch a Claude independent session. So I'm finding and I'm learning new things constantly, and I've become a little software house. I have a system in production, and I have a system that is going to overtake the system in production. I have naming for my components. I am refactoring. I am improving the system. So if you're starting some agents today, I would say decide. There's a main tree decision for you to decide at the start. Is it going to be an attended system, or is it going to be an unattended system? So right now my system is hardened enough that on this computer where we're recording this, the system is doing finding new conferences, and I'm not going to tell you how because that's where the system makes money, and researching these conferences and approving the research of the good conferences that are found. And this is running unattended. It's actually, part of it is running on that computer over there, which is an M1 Max that I am returning tomorrow because I realized that besides the opportunity costs, I was running the local LLMs, and which is maybe it's not a video for me to make, but it was interesting as a learning experience. But the local LLMs are fun, but it doesn't justify buying new hardware for that. And soon they're going to run on OpenRouter for very little cost, but these costs add up. The search results costs add up. The finding contact costs add up. And so this system is starting to have a P&L. The P&L is already in the black. It's already in the positive, but also my job is to control the costs, etc. So for you, I hope you can learn something from this video, and it's not just a confession from me that I spent way too much time setting up this outreach system. The purpose of this system is to create a snowball effect where when you are in front of a stage, as this beautiful book says, The Referable Speaker from Michael Port and Andrew Davis, is once you are on stage in front of the right people, the speech that you're giving gets referrals, and these referrals then drive the business. But you gotta get this started. You gotta get seen, and this is what my agents are doing right now. If you watch this far, you are a hero. You are my personal hero. Tell me how you're using agents in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye. There's a video over here, obviously. Is there? Yes, there is a video over here appearing. It's a good one. It's a really good one. It's because YouTube thinks it's what you should watch next. And for once, I agree with YouTube.